Hello, Facebook family. It's me, Shannon LaBruyere. I am live and loving it tonight. It is Sunday, September 15th, the month of September, half over. Where is it going? Unbelievable. I am so glad you're joining us. Hey, Daniel, glad you're here. Thanks for jumping on. Julie, yay, glad you're here. Ruben, so glad you're here. Thanks for being here. Bill, hi, awesome. You guys are awesome. Thanks for jumping on right at the top of the show here. Awesome, awesome. Well, let me see. Good things are happening in my neck of the woods. We're in the midst of a really powerful mastermind group that just started yesterday, talking about perfectly imperfect leadership. And I've got to tell you, I'm so excited about the group that we've got and the power that their insight is bringing. Dan says he's glad he's here. Ruben's waving hi. I don't know if any of you have met Zippy the cat before, but this is my little Zipper. I'm going to talk today about models and how we model our behavior. I'm just going to tell you right now, I never model my behavior after Zippy the cat. Ted the dog, he's another story. He's a sweetheart. Zippy the cat, she's unpredictable. She doesn't like to be told what to do. And frankly, I don't know why I love her so much, but she's a sweetie, at least to me. Anyway, I'm so glad you're here. Al, thank you for jumping on. Tonight, you guys, we are going to talk about models. Role models, maybe you call them heroes. I don't know. I've never felt comfortable with the term hero, but role model I always felt a little more comfortable with. And Julie's acknowledging Zippy the cat. Zippy's going to be a good girl. She's going to sit right here by me. She's not going to disrupt. She's going to be the best student ever while we learn how to thrive and change. Did I mention tonight is Sunday Night Live? It is a Sunday. We are live, and the idea is to equip you to have a great week. Right? To somehow get our brain adjusted so that when we hit the ground running on Monday morning, we are in a better place, better prepared, with a better mindset that's going to serve us well so that we can go out there and make the change we want to see happen in the world. Lenice, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Welcome. Julie says Zippy is now world famous. It's the truth. It is the truth. We've got an international audience on Sunday Night Live, so Zippy is famous. She's going to start making me pay her, I'm sure, to be featured in the future. She's a pretty clever girl. All right, so let's get started talking about models and modeling. So I wonder, who is your model? Who is your model? Faith, I'm glad you're here. Do you have a model in your life? Do you have a role model? Do you have a hero? If you do, just drop them in the comments. I would love to hear who you look up to, who your role models are. And I believe we all need one. We all need not just one model in our life, but more than one, because there are so many aspects of our lives that modeling can help. So I want us to just be open-minded tonight as we think about our models, our role models, maybe even our heroes. You might be surprised as you start going through your mental Rolodex who actually qualifies to be a role model. A few years back, when I was just graduated out of high school, I got a job in an office tower in a very prestigious area of town. And my job was to go and connect with people in all of these offices in this beautiful, exotic to me business tower. And my job was to connect with them and sell them coffee service. So I was in sales. And I had never done it before. And the person who hired me knew that I was friendly. So he thought I'd be great. And he just, sent me out there, said, this is the address you go to. Go out there, sell some coffee service. And it turned out that I wasn't dressed at all like anybody else in that building. I wasn't dressed like them at all. I was wearing mittens instead of gloves. I had a hoodie coat, and these scruffy boots, and I looked nothing like the people that I was connecting with in that office building at all. So I decided I needed to go get a new coat because the one I had looked really juvenile. Hey, Dawn, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. So I went to this store called Burlington Coat Factory. How many of you have been there? Have you heard of it? Have you heard of Burlington Coat Factory? It is exactly what it sounds like. It is aisle after aisle after aisle of coats. And I went into the Burlington Coat Factory and looked at all those coats, and my heart just sunk. I had no idea what kind of a coat I was supposed to be wearing to be a professional to go do sales in this office building. So I started thinking, and I remembered my sister-in-law, Glenda, was a paralegal. And she worked in that building, or a building just like it. And so I got to thinking, what kind of coat would Glenda buy? And I really spent a couple of minutes thinking that, like, okay, what kind of coat would Glenda buy to wear to work? And so I went up and down the aisles. I took a few samples out, tried them on, picked one, bought it, left, felt great. A few weeks later, I am over at my mother-in-law's house, and my sister-in-law comes, and she's going to visit at the same time. We're having a great visit. And she says to me, hey, I like your coat. I said, well, thank you. When I went to the store, there were hundreds of black coats to choose from, but I wanted to channel my inner Glenda. So I really tried to put myself in your shoes and buy a coat just like you'd buy. And she started to laugh, and she went to the closet, pulled out her coat, the exact same coat. It had the same label. It was everything about it. I had bought, out of hundreds of options, I had bought Glenda's exact coat. That's the power of having a model. Because we can, if we can't do it ourselves, if it's outside of us, when we ask ourselves, what would Glenda do? We can do it. We can do it. Something as simple as a coat that may seem crazy to you, but to me it was illuminating because I realized, and we're getting some hearts here. Love it. Hi, Michelle. I'm glad you're jumping on. Yeah, something as simple as saying, what kind of a coat would Glenda buy, allowed me to buy a coat exactly like the one Glenda bought. And guess what? The next time I went to my business appointments in that building, oh, that must be Giselle. I love those hearts, Giselle. Or is it Anne? I don't know, but I'm glad you're here. So having a model matters, especially when we don't know exactly what we're supposed to do next. If you're in the midst of turmoil, sometimes it is so hard to get our brain around, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I'll tell you what, go right to this point. What would fill in the blank do? What would that person do in this situation? My daughter was in a car accident. She was fine at the end of it all, just so you know the end of the story. But it was a serious car accident. Jaws of life were involved. Broken bones were involved. Not sure if she had broken her back, so she was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. I get a call at work. I'm beside myself. I race there. My husband races there. It's turmoil. Picture it, right? Turmoil. And I didn't want my little girl to be afraid. And I was scared half to death. And so I looked at one of the nurses, and I saw how she was behaving with my daughter. And she was calm, and she was soothing. And she had presence of mind. And so I decided I wasn't going to act like crazy, lunatic, off my rocker, scared out of my gourd mom. I was going to act like a calm, cool, and collected nurse. And I took that model and I applied it in the situation that I was in. And my daughter was better for it because I was able to stay out of all the emotion that would have set her off and frightened her and made things so much worse. I was able to stay calm, cool, and collected, not because I was inside, but because I had found a model that I could focus on and say, okay, I'm just going to do that. When I don't know what to do, I look for somebody to copy. How did she do it? Times in my life when I was so clueless, I had no idea where to go, what to say. I was able to go through a history of people that I respected, some of them alive and some of them just pretend. And I was able to find the person I wanted to model in that situation, and it allowed me to get past it. So, Glenda's coat, that's a small thing, sort of, although it was big to me at the time. I found the right coat. I got to be a professional. Next time I went out on my sales calls, I felt like I belonged there, and I was more successful because I looked like I belonged. It's important. But what about this? One of my Facebook friends is named Bernadette. Bernadette lost her husband 10 months ago. And I have never personally met her. I have never met Bernadette. But she tuned in to one of my, sort of like a Sunday Night Live, just not too long after her husband died. It was during the holidays. And I became her Facebook friend, and I've been able to watch her journey. And I'm just here to tell you that I have never lost anybody that close to me before. I've not unexpectedly lost my husband like dear Bernadette has done. But Bernadette has been so generous, sharing her story, that as I am reading what she's going through, the emotions she's going through, as she shares how she's dealing with it, where she's finding strength, where she's finding comfort, I am looking at this woman and I'm saying, that's a model. That's a model. And what's so interesting to me is that she acknowledged in just a recent post, she acknowledged that she's been following in the footsteps of another widow who lost her husband just a few months before she did. See what's happening there? One person is modeling another person who was modeling another person. It's the legacy of our humanity. It goes back thousands of years. Friend, if you feel like the path you're walking is yours alone, it's not. It is not yours alone. Somebody else has done this. Somebody else has done it. And I want you to guard against this. Don't be thinking for a minute that you're going to find the perfect one person, that you're going to be able to copy their whole life and just keep trucking and it's going to be fantastic. That's not how it works. When we're modeling, we have to make sure that we're modeling the appropriate piece of a person's life. You've heard the story of flawed heroes, right? Yes, many heroes. In fact, the best heroes in literature and movies and in film, TV, they have flaws because people have flaws. Doesn't mean we have to copy their flaws, right? We can take the best out of their book, but we can follow successful people who have done what we want to do, because success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. It matters. It matters who you surround yourself with. It matters who you follow. It matters who are your role models. Are you a teacher? Do you wish you were a better teacher? Who's the best teacher you can think of? Who's the best teacher you ever had? Do what he did. Do that. Are you a supervisor? Are you a supervisor and you stink? You have no idea what to do. You have no idea where to start. You're getting terrible results. Your people all hate you. You're the worst supervisor ever. So don't be that supervisor anymore. Who's the good one? Just act like them. This is what we get hung up on sometimes. We think that we have to be just straight to our core, that 100% awesome person. And actually, to start getting results in our lives, we just have to start acting like that person. And an amazing transformation happens. When we start acting like that person, stuff happens inside of us. And we start becoming more like that great supervisor, that great manager, that great speaker, that great singer that we wanted to be. But we have to have a model. We are not going to be able to just out of whole cloth make this great persona, make this great successful individual without having somebody else to look at and say, I need to see what that looks like. It's how we're wired. It's why we act so much like our parents, right? Because we're looking for people to show us, how is this done? How is this done? Some of us love to be unique, and I'm one of those people. I like to be unique. How many of you love being unique? You don't want to be like anybody else. You don't want to be a copycat. The whole idea of modeling yourself after somebody just sounds terrible because you think, I don't want to be a copycat. I'm me. I'm awesome. I'm great. All that may be true. But to be truly great, you need to follow in the footsteps of other people who are great. Did you know that Beethoven, the fantastic composer Beethoven, da 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 da, you know, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, da 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 da, Beethoven spent the early part of his classical writing career copying, trying to emulate Mozart. Yeah, the great composer Beethoven spent a good chunk of his career as he was honing his musicianship trying to emulate Mozart. That's crazy. Not crazy in a bad way. It's just mind-blowing to me that somebody with that kind of talent who was that great would be watching somebody else and saying, I want to do it great, just like them. This is the thing. When we follow in the footsteps of greatness, when we follow those clues of success in the people that we're modeling, we hone our own skills and we become even more individuals than what we were before we started emulating the people who have done it and done it well. There is something so gratifying about pursuing greatness. Are you pursuing greatness? Are you pursuing greatness? Are you trying to get better and better, not just for the sake of being better, but for the sake of being great? If you're one of those people who wants to be unique, who just shivers at the thought of having a role model, well, how about this? Who's the trailblazer? Who is the trailblazer that you admire? The person who carved her own path, the person who just hacked his way through the new territory and created something totally new, totally fresh, totally different. Emulate that person. How did they do it? What was their mindset? What was their thinking? We can look at the people, even if we don't want to copy their every little action, we can copy their mindset. How did they think? What kind of discipline did they have? What were their challenges? What were their failures? Who are you modeling yourself after? And is it somebody that you intentionally chose? Did you choose the model that you're following, or are you just automatically following in the footsteps of the people that you were surrounded with for the first 20 years of your life? If that's what you're doing, sorry about that rocking, people. If that's what you're doing, I want you to know you have a better option. You can intentionally choose who you are modeling your behavior, your choices after. You can choose to model yourself after people who are successful and who have the kind of results that you respect and that you want. You want to model yourself after people who have the kind of results that you want and that you respect. That they've gone about it in a way that resonates with you, and they've got the same kind of results that you wish you could get. Act like them. Act like them. My home growing up was flawed. It was a flawed place. And I know I am not alone. Your home was flawed as well. I know it was, because we were all raised by people, and people have flaws. My home was a flawed place. And so when it was time for me to start my home, I was a young bride, and I was starting my home, and I knew that the home life that I had didn't have everything about it that I wanted in my life. It didn't have the kind of results always that I wanted in my home. Enter focus on the family. I was able to tune into a radio program every day at noon and get good advice that I trusted from people who had a proven track record of having the kinds of homes, the kinds of families that I respected and that I craved. I followed the breadcrumbs of success. Hi, Pam, I'm glad you're here. And Sherry, I'm glad you jumped on. When I was a young mom, the models that I grew up with in my household, They had a lot to be desired sometimes, but just to put it lightly, I had some things that were amazing. My mom, my dad, they loved me unconditionally. What a gift. And I'll never, ever diminish the value of that gift. It was the most powerful gift I could have ever had. My parents loved me unconditionally. But this is the thing. Even though my mom loved me unconditionally, she was flawed, to my mind, in some of her childrearing techniques. For example, as a young mother, I did not want to follow in my mom's footsteps with screaming as discipline. My mom was a very excellent screamer, and the kinds of things that she screamed at us, not necessarily things that I wanted to repeat. Things like, I'm going to knock your teeth out of your throat. Now, you can be shocked at that, and go ahead and be shocked, because that is kind of shocking. But in real life, she never did it once, and we all knew she wouldn't, right? It was those empty threats. But that kind of a parenting style wasn't something I wanted to model, but it was what I grew up with, and it was what felt natural because I saw it. But I had an opportunity to choose. I got to choose who did I want to model myself after. So when it came to parenting, who did I choose to model myself after? Mrs. Pigglewiggle. Anybody heard of Mrs. Pigglewiggle? Mrs. Pigglewiggle? Really, go to the library. See if you can find her on the internet. Mrs. Pigglewiggle, the best parenting advisor ever. She wasn't a parent herself. She was just very wise, and she bailed all of the neighborhood parents out of all of their dilemmas with their awkward children who were digging in or being rebellious or refusing to eat. Mrs. Pigglewiggle had an answer for everything. Mrs. Pigglewiggle isn't real. She's not real, but she was real to me. She was a model that I could follow. And I've got other models like that. Anne Shirley. How many of you ever read the book Anne of Green Gables? Or maybe you saw it on TV. I loved Anne Shirley. And when I found myself in an awkward spot, I would think, what would Anne do? How would Anne handle this? She'd bounce back. She'd be resilient. And I could carry on. Who's your model? Who are you modeling your life, your business, your home? Everything about your person. If you're not intentionally choosing who you're modeling, you're falling into a rut. You're falling into a habit. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but you know how much of a fan I am of being intentional. When we're intentional, I feel like everything else is more powerful when we're intentionally choosing, right? So, what would Mrs. Pigglewiggle do? This was one of my philosophies as a young mom. Now I'm an entrepreneur. Hi, Mary. I'm glad you're here. Eric, I'm glad you jumped on. If I didn't say welcome, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, now I'm an entrepreneur. And so one of my mentors, one of the people that I look to for clues, Seth Godin. Seth Godin is an entrepreneur. He's an innovative thinker. He's generous with his time and with his talent. He shares information. I love Seth Godin. Who do you follow? Who are you patterning your business thinking after? Who's your model? Who's your model of success? Somebody that has got the results that you want. Somebody whose methods you respect. That's what you're looking for in a model. Not somebody who is cutthroat and just gets results no matter what. Somebody whose methods you respect that gets the results you want. That's the kind of person you want to model your life after. When it comes to leadership, I model myself after John Maxwell. He is a friend. He is a mentor. He's a prolific writer. If you've never exposed yourself to anything from John Maxwell, go to your local library. You will find book after book after book. Great stuff. He's a generous man. He's a wise man. He's principle driven. Those of you, that's Teddy, and I think Teddy's dad is home, just so you know, so we can all be aware. Mary is coming to us from her church parking lot. Thank you, Mary, for being here. And Elizabeth Richard, thank you for being here. I'm so glad. All right, so this is what we're talking about. Who are we modeling ourselves after? Because we can. We can choose who we are going to act like. We can follow the clues of success that they leave. So, if you want to be a great writer, who's your favorite writer? Who's a great writer that you respect? How did they go about doing their work? Have you ever investigated? I want to be a remarkable speaker. I want to be an excellent speaker. I want to be world class, top notch. This is a dream of mine, and it is a dear piece of my heart. So I started researching really great speakers. Did you know that Winston Churchill, his number one skill was being an orator? That's what got him all of his positions in politics. That was what actually allowed the Allies to win World War II. It hinged on Winston Churchill's remarkable gift at speaking. Amazing. So I took a bunch of notes. How did he do it? What did he do? How did he look at speaking? How did he practice? There are people in your life that you know are successful, that have what you want. You can model your life after them. Well, thank you, Sherry. I appreciate those kind words. And Sandy, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. I love it when my family jumps on. It's great. This is what I want you to know tonight as we wrap up talking about models. I don't care what stage of life you're in. I don't care what changes you've encountered over the course of your journey. There is somebody who's encountered that change. They've encountered that transition. They've gone through what you've gone through or are going through now. Find those people and look for clues. How are they doing it? And then even if you have no desire, your heart isn't in it, do it anyway. Act as if you were that great person that you wish you were. Act as if you were that great writer, the great salsa dancer, the great neurosurgeon, whatever it is that you choose to put your hands to do. If you find a person who has done it well and done it in a manner that you respect, and you follow in their footsteps, you are going to be successful too, because you will become your best while you do it. Years ago, I think it might have been in the 90s, right? Who remembers the What Would Jesus Do bracelets? What a concept. What would Jesus do? What a great question to ask whenever I'm getting ready to make a big decision. What would Jesus do? I've done that. I've done that when I was out trying to figure out how to get all of the suitcases in the car. I've said to myself, I wonder what Ken would do. Ken is my husband and he's an engineer in the brain. So I'm not, but shoot, I can pretend I'm Ken for a few minutes. And it's amazing when I put my Ken hat on, how my thinking changes. Yeah, if you aren't the great father you want to be, if you aren't the great wife you want to be, if you aren't the great fill in the blank that you want to be, find somebody who is and walk in their footsteps. And then this is the last thing that I'm going to say about modeling. Who's modeling themselves after you? Who is modeling their life, their choices, their career path, their skills? Who are you the example for? Have you shared your story? Have you shared your story with anybody? Have you shared your story of how you overcame with people who are behind you in line, who are still getting ready to walk the path you walked? They need to know how you have overcome. Be generous with your story, not because you're trying to brag and say, look how awesome I am. No, because the people who are watching you need to know your story so that they know that you did it and they can do it too. We have a long path of excellence and we are following in someone else's footsteps, but there's somebody behind us who is following as well. It's so important to share our stories. That's all I have, you guys. I can't wait for you to share. Who is your hero? Who are you modeling? And then, is there somebody who's modeling after you? I love you. Have a great week, and I will see you soon.